Well, I'm very honored to have this privilege of talking to you and kind of sharing our experiences, what we have gone through, and the issues that it has raised, and the way we try to respond. Many of you are probably familiar with the Grameen Bank, which lends money to the poor women. Started very small in one village and grew over time, became a bank on the way in 1983, and ever since providing the service. And the bank right now has over 8 million borrowers, mostly women, 97% are women. And they own the bank, and the bank runs with its own money. It doesn't take money from outside, it doesn't borrow money from outside. It's just deposits coming to each branch. That money is used for lending money to the poor people in the neighborhood in a self-sustaining way. So it's not dependent on any external money. And the bank makes profit. Profit goes back to the borrowers because they are the shareholders of the bank. So it's a kind of complete circle. We always encourage their children to go to school so that they do not remain the same way as their parents are, who are illiterate. Literacy never entered in those families ever. So we thought we should break that cycle. And we are capable of doing that by encouraging the parents, particularly mothers who are our borrowers, to make sure the children go to school. And we succeeded in doing that. And then we saw that batches of students gradually coming to higher and higher classes. So we introduced them education loans so that they can go into higher education. So thousands and thousands of students into medical schools, universities, engineering schools, and so on. Many completed their PhDs, many are now working as a professional people. Right now we have over 52,000 students in the schools, in medical schools, engineering schools, everywhere. So you have a whole new generation of young people coming. If you look at those young people and look at in the context of the campus and the universities, you cannot distinguish who is coming from the poorest families and who is from the richest families. They are kids like any other kids. So you see, there is no basic difference in human quality of coming from the poor families or coming from the rich families. When you see the mother and the daughter together, these days you cannot avoid raising new type of questions in your mind. Mother is totally literate. Daughter is a medical doctor. And your question that comes, the mother could have been a doctor also. There is nothing wrong in the basic ingredient of that person. But she forget about being a doctor. She never went to school. Society never gave the privilege of going to school and learning her alphabets. So she remained illiterate. So were her mother and her mother and her mother. So only thing, something happened in between. An institution was created which provides the loan, and she changed her life, sent the children to school, and now you have a new generation coming up. So when you ask the question, what creates poverty? Is poverty inside the person, or poverty is imposed on the person? The answer comes very clear, everyday experience. It is definitely not inside the person. It's not something missing in the person, the basic ingredient of the person. It is the failure of the system, failure of the society, which makes that person the way she is. A little change can make it all the difference. So the conclusion you always come up with is poverty is created by the system. It is an external imposition on human beings, not internal outgrowth of the person. So how do we fix the system? That's the question you keep asking as we go along. As we did in Bangladesh, there a question came whether this can be replicated, done in other countries. Many other countries came forward, they started using this idea and started doing it pretty good. But when it came to the developed countries, rich countries, like United States, for example, people say, oh, this is different. You cannot run Grameen type of program in a country like this. So this debate was going on for many years. There are some programs in USA with the microfinance, but basically they turn into training people. Although they call them microfinance program, they are not actually lending money. They are just providing what they call financial literacy without leaving them any money. So that's not microcredit program, and they are not self-sustaining because they depend on donors' money and everything else. I kept on insisting that it can be worked anywhere in the world. So there's no question about not being able to do it in the United States or somewhere else. So I was challenged into doing it by some of my friends, American friends, and they provided the money. I said, we'll be delighted to do that. So we started in New York City in January of 2008 in Queens of New York. And it worked beautifully. It continued, and we sent some people from Bangladesh, our staff, to do that. And they did exactly like the way they do it in Bangladesh. They never had any idea to do it anywhere else because they didn't know anything else. They did exactly what they knew. And it clicked, it worked. The same year, the later half of the year, came the financial crisis. So then we see very interesting way of watching this whole scenario developing. While the microfinance program, without collateral, without lawyers, without any guarantee, flourishing. Repayment rate over 99%. On the other side of the street, big banks with lots of collateral, lots of lawyers, big lawyers, working with them, melting away. I said, I wish somebody could raise this question now, who is creditworthy? Because in the early years, banks were telling me, poor are not creditworthy, and I was challenging them. Today is a good time to raise the same question again, because the answer will be quite different. So what kind of system we have built? Look at these institutions. Prided themselves that this is the way to be done, this is invincible, you cannot change it, no other way to do it. Fooled us. They are the one got into trouble, massive trouble, all over the world. So I said, this is an excellent opportunity for the world in this crisis period to kind of reflect. See, do we really go with this system or need some changing of the system? Time of crisis is a good time to kind of unpack and start looking at every little details and fix it again so that we move into a new direction. But we see generally people are in the mood, newspapers, governments are in the mood to get back to the normalcy as fast as they can. So that this time is a brief time. I said, don't rush. Getting back to the normalcy will be a stupid thing to do. Because we go back to this with a kind of band-aids or some kind of short-term solutions, push the system to go back and start again, two things will happen. We will not change whatever we have because it's working. Nobody would like to touch it anymore because something can go wrong because now it's working. So that is, we missed the opportunity to fix it. Second thing, once it gets started, gets moving, it will go in the same track and take us to the same fault line and with a bigger disaster because it's built into the system. And I remind that it's not only financial crisis. Financial crisis draws everybody's attention because our daily life gets connected with that. But it's also the food crisis. 2008 was the year of food crisis. Please don't forget that. Three governments failed. They had to quit because of the uprising. And there were many street demonstrations. People were nervous. Many food exporting countries stopped exporting food. Food importing countries suddenly look the whole world. They don't know how to solve their problem. They are a rich country, but they don't have food. Where do they get the food anymore? So that problem didn't disappear. It kind of went to the back burner, but the problem remains. Environmental crisis getting worse every day. And the social crisis, poverty and all these things that diseases and all that we keep talking about. So these are all rooted to the same cause. These are not separate crisis. This is manifestations of different kinds of the same problem that we have. It's an institutional architectural problem. So this would be a good time to address that architecture. And when it comes to me, when people say, what is it that you want to change? You would like this to change at this moment. I said, not at this moment. I have been talking about it for many, many years now. Financial system is not doing the right thing. That needs to be changed. Because they deny access to so many millions, even billions of people from that system. It cannot be a right system. For those billions of people, banks do not exist. How can you run your life, which runs on money, without getting connected with the financial system? So you are condemning to another world because they have no banking system for them. People ask me in New York, when we were opening the third branch in Manhattan, one journalist asked, so you are spreading your branches from one to another. What do you ultimately look forward to? I said, well, I hope someday we will be able to provide financial service to all people in New York City, those who are deprived from the conventional system. And what will that mean? I said, that will mean New York City will be the first city in the United States. There will be no payday loans anymore. It will be gone. I said, this is a sickness in the society to have payday loans. And go and advertise in the newspaper, advertise in television, that come, we'll pay you money, we'll lend you money. Interest rate, 1,500%. Interest rate, 1,000%. Nobody cares. And people are condemned to deal with them, and that becomes a trillion-dollar business. Because it doesn't concern me and you, we are not involved in it. So it flourishes for them. I said, if you're successful, there will be no check cashing companies in New York City. Because the whole United States is filled with check cashing companies. People cannot cash their check. Check they receive from the government, check they receive from their employer. They cannot get their money. Bank will not let them open a bank account. Millions of people in the United States are not fortunate to have a bank account because bank will not let them open a bank account. They are too small for them. So they go to the check cashing companies to get their money, and they get less for the check because check cashing company take the money off from that check. And New York City will be the first city in the United States where you will not see pawn shop signs, big pawn shops everywhere you see. This city will never have this pawn shop anymore because we take care of those needs for the people and so on. So this is the system. We pride ourselves being the most sophisticated banking system in the world, but it's not provided to the people. Like you're saying that the people who live under the shadow of those big skyscrapers, the banks don't do business with them. They do business with the world, but not to their own neighbors. So we need to fix that system. It should, whatever it is, it should be an inclusive system. Nobody will be rejected from that system. And we have already done the groundwork because it's done, it's proven, it's working. I said, you can lend money, bank can lend money even to the beggars. People say, no, that's not possible. I said, that's possible because in Bangladesh we do that. We lend money to beggars. And we have no problem with lending money to the beggars. So already groundwork is done. So this is one piece of change that we have to do in a massive way, in a big way, fundamental way. The next one that I concentrated on is the concept, particularly focusing on the concept of business. I said, look at the concept of business in the capitalist system. Business means business to make money. There is no second kind of business in the whole world. So I said, theoreticians who build these models, build this system, architecture, they misunderstood human beings. They fragmented human beings. They took one part of human being and built the whole theory of it as if all human beings are like that, or every human beings are like that. I said, first of all, human beings are not one-dimensional beings. We are not money-making machines. We want to make money, that's part of us. But to interpret us, that's the only thing we do in our life, is a completely wrong thing. Economists took the selfishness in us and build a whole theory of business on the basis of it. Everything is for me, nothing for others. So I try to bring everything to me. I said, yes, we have selfishness. It's a basic ingredient of us because it came out of our self-protection. It's an important element in a human being. But every human being is also a selfless being. We also want to touch other people's lives. We want to change the world. We want to solve problems in a big way that we can afford to do. That selflessness was never used by economists. They said, if you want to be selfless, why don't you go and become a philanthropist? Give money away. I said, giving away is a very important element to express our selflessness, but not necessarily the most efficient way of doing that. Sometimes it's a wonderful thing that we can do, help people by our philanthropy is a very important thing to do. But in philanthropy, money goes, it never comes back. I said, if I could create a business format, a social business format, to get it money back again, and money recycles, without any intention of making profit out of it, but making it recycle, then I achieve more. That same money works again and again and again, non-stop. You start an engine, and it becomes a self-fueling engine. It goes on and produces the result that you intended. That will be a wonderful thing to do. And I said, why don't we include it in the business world? Build a business which does that, and we call it social business, to refer to kind of distinguish it from the conventional business, because this is for the others. Everything is for others, nothing for me. So we started creating those kind of businesses. It's very difficult to convince people by arguments, by reasoning, because our minds are all made into the logic of profit-making business. Our eyes are permanently fitted with profit-maximizing glasses. So we see the world in a profit-maximizing way. We think in a profit-maximizing way. The moment you talk about something else, people say, no, this can't be true. Why should anybody be in business? Not to make money. Because you cannot think, because your mind is now kind of built in with the logic of your mental chip is on the logic of profit maximizing. I said, if you take off your profit maximizing glasses and put on the social business glasses, you'll see the world completely differently. Suddenly everything makes enormous sense. Suddenly you see you have the capacity to change the world completely on your own. Not the government, not the big business, nothing. You, on your own, you can change the world because you have the creativity to change the world. So that's what allows that social business to think, to work. So we started, always I found that it's a good thing to demonstrate rather than argue, keep on arguing. Because some guy is smarter than you, he has a lot of other things. Then he thinks, oh, you are now, you have no arguments against it. So if you demonstrate, no matter what argument you make, you cannot argue with the reality. So we started doing this. We created many of these social businesses, but nobody paid any attention. Everybody started paying attention when we have a joint venture with a big company, Danone. We created Grameen Danone company to produce yogurt in Bangladesh for a very specific reason, to address the problem of malnutrition among the children. Many of you know in most of their countries, children are malnourished. In Bangladesh, about half the children of Bangladesh are malnourished. Most of them are severely malnourished. Many efforts were done in the past, not much impact has been made. If a child is malnourished, two things immediately happens. The child's growth becomes stunted. It doesn't grow as much as a normal child will grow. And its mental faculty doesn't grow accordingly because it's not nourished the way it should happen. So you are losing out a whole nation with these children. That's not a good future to look forward to. So we thought, why don't we create a social business to address that? And Danone agreed right away. We created this company. We put all the micronutrients in the yogurt, vitamin, iron, zinc, iodine, as it's needed, and sell it to the children, particularly poor children, make it very cheap. so that everybody can afford it. If a child eats 2 cups of this yogurt within a week and continues this for 8 months or 9 months, the child gets all the micronutrients back, becomes a healthy child. So if you can achieve this in a business way, it doesn't cost anybody anything because people are buying, selling yogurt, and a company runs by its own income. Children love it, mothers afford it, and everything is done. So this is one example of social business, and we created Veolia, Grameen Veolia, water company to bring water. We created Grameen Adidas with the Adidas group to bring shoes to the people who go barefoot. We challenged them, why don't you create shoes for people who go barefoot? Make it affordable to them so that they can wear shoes, because this is also a health issue. Many of our diseases enter our body through the skin of our feet, particularly parasitic diseases. And a country like Bangladesh is filled with parasitic disease. You see bloated stomach of children and adults, meaning that millions of these parasites are inside the body. So we can protect them. If they can protect themselves by wearing shoes, simple shoes. If it's comfortable and it's affordable, and that's it. So we can create lots of these things. If our creative minds get into action to solve the problem that we see around us, none of this problem can survive for very long. Today, the technology power of the world is so big, and it gets bigger every moment, every second it gets bigger. It's a kind of exploding technology. We can achieve anything with that technology. But who uses this technology? Who is in command of this technology? Business is in command of this technology. What do they use it for? To make money. I said, if we could open a window where you can use the same technology to solve the problems, these problems will not be there anymore. So we don't have to shield it off into 2 kinds of world. One is a making money world, and another the world of the people who suffer from all this problem. We can open it up, and social business opens it up. The moment we get involved with it, all this technology become available to solve the problem. And we have a completely different kind of system. So this is the time to see whether we can move into that direction, whether it makes sense. And I'm saying that why don't we build it into our textbooks so that the young people can read that there are 2 kinds of businesses. Business to make money, business to solve problems. And let them decide what kind of business they would like to be in, as an employee, or as an investor, or as an entrepreneur. Today, there is no choice. If you want to be successful, either you own a business company, or you join a business company to make money for somebody else. So you devote all your talent, all your creativity in the company, so that the shareholders of the company can make bigger money. That's all our prospect is. I said, that's not something that inspires human beings. Human beings are much bigger than just making money for our shareholders. We have a big capacity to address the problems and move on to a better life for everybody. So that's the essential points that I raised in the book, and I'll leave it to you to judge whether it makes sense to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I have 3 questions, and then we'll have a good quarter of an hour for conversation in the room. Can I first ask about what is the essence of social business? So every corporation will have its story of corporate social responsibility, its balanced scorecard, its ethical commitments. One thinks of BP at the moment, for example, who have volumes of books about all their kind of values and commitments and all this. Karl Marx said that the shareholders would eventually see the kind of disappearance of capitalism, because when companies were actually owned by shareholders, they would change in their very nature. Of course, that hasn't proven to be the case. So what was it? Is it about values? Is it about governance? Is it about scale? What is the essence of social business?
First of all, social business is a problem-solving business. It starts with aiming at a problem. What is the problem that I want to address? So first comes the problem. Then how do I design a business to address a problem? For example, in a country here like UK, say, we want to create a social business, or I want to create a social business to take 10 people out of welfare. That's my social business. I thought people must be given a fair chance in their life rather than kept in the welfare roster. So I create a social business to help 10 people out of welfare. If I have done that, if I'm successful, I have done something. Take 10 people with their willingness in a decent life for themselves. That's a social business.
So it doesn't matter that that company is privately owned and that I'm making a profit from it. It's the purpose.
First of all, the purpose.
Sorry.
The whole intention is to make it happen, not for making money for myself. Because out from as a social business, I do this to solve problems. I feel good that I have the capacity to touch 10 people's lives, and I've done that. It's not for making money. I do make money in my other business, where I'm a profit-making company. I make money on that. But this one, I do it for a solving problem. If I'm excited about this success, I want to do more of that. Or I does this, I said I have done that. So this is basically social business. It doesn't have to be a big company doing that. Any individual can do that. Any young person, any old person, any retired person can do that. So this is within the realm of every citizen, every person capable of solving the problem. Today we complain about it not being solved. We complain against the government that they are not doing it, or somebody else doing it, not doing it. I'm saying, okay, we keep complaining, but at the same time, let's do something. This energizes us that, yes, we can do that. So this is basically it. And you mentioned the Corporate Social Responsibility Fund, which initially probably started with a good intention of helping. Since in a business world, I cannot help anybody else because I'm so busy making money. So at the end of the year, out of profit, I put some money aside and use it for doing good things to the society. But gradually, it became money for image promotion, moved away from the original intention. I'm saying, why don't you use that corporate social responsibility money to invest in a social business? Because after all, you donated it already. It's not in a company now. So why don't you at least use half of that money and choose any problem that you see around you and create a business. After all, you're a business people. You know how to create business. But this one is not a business to bring dividend to your shareholders, but it's to solve the problem. So this is the new use I would like to recommend for them to do that.
So to be devil's advocate, there is an argument that says that what we need in society is that businesses focus on making money, which is what they're good at. The state then taxes the profits that are made and the goods that are sold, and then the state, which is democratically controlled, unlike companies, decides how to spend that money on our behalf, and it is democratically accountable to us. And this is the way that the world goes round.
I have no problem with that.
Rather than companies worrying themselves about social purposes, that's what politics is for. So we tax companies, politicians consider that, and then they spend the money. Do you think that model then is broken?
I'm saying that there's one more opportunity. Because government, the politicians, created the welfare system to keep sure that everybody is taken care of, which is an excellent idea. But forgot that they have to take it off from the roster too. There's no reason why they should be in the second generation in the welfare, third generation in welfare, fourth generation in welfare. Doesn't make sense. The second part of the business is undone. It's not been done. So I said, why don't I do it? You do it. Take 10 people out and show that it can be done. So that another person gets inspired, said, hey, I can do 20. Let's do 20 out. And everybody does it. You are not challenging the government. Government is not condemned by that. Simply they didn't do it. Nobody has asked them to do it. Citizens never asked them to do it. I felt that I can do it, and I did it. So this is an option that I have. I'm using that option. I'm not challenging what government should do. I'm not saying that unemployed people should get unemployment benefits. I'm not challenging that. But I'll go ahead and create a new social business so that I can take 5 unemployed people out of unemployment. There's nothing wrong with that. So whenever I see a problem, I want to address it by creating a business. That's all.
And then can I finally ask you, before we open it up, about what you've learned about what it is that gives people a sense of hope, a sense of efficacy in their lives? We're currently in this country having a debate. I'm not sure we will have a debate, actually, but we just abolished something called the Child Trust Fund. And this was an idea which was that every 18-year-old including the poorest, would inherit some money when they were 18. And this was based on evidence that for poor people, having an asset, having savings, does much more for their kind of sense of efficacy and empowerment than having an extra pound a week in their benefits.
Sure.
So what have you learned? What is it that empowers people? Is it savings? Is it running a business? What are the things that really lead people to feel differently about themselves?
Yes. In situation like that, when they actually is done it, you have a trust fund for every child, 18 years. When they come to the 18th year, they inherit that, get this fund. I'll create a social business, how to make the best use of your money, so that you don't squander it, you don't start drinking because you get a car, which you didn't need it, so that you make good use of this money. Not because I need to make money out of them, to make sure they take good advantage of that and come up with beautiful ideas what they can do and hold them together to see if they collectively do something bigger enterprise and let them exercise it before they come to the 18th year. So I'll create a social business. So I'm only adding peace. I'm not taking away anybody's right from anybody. I'm creating options for people. If government is responsible for healthcare, I'm saying, okay, healthcare is fine. If the private sector is also doing the healthcare, I said, that's fine too. But I'll do a social business healthcare. If people see this is a third option is interesting for them, they will come. If they feel that it's not interesting for them, it will disappear. But I will try that there is some missing point on both sides, on the private sector and also the government sector, public sector. So I'll create a social business. I don't think anybody will blame me for that because I'm charging fees. I'm running it for their cause. If they come and buy this from me, I'm happy that I have done something for people, not with the intention of making money, for the intention of providing that service which is missing in them. So that's what the social business is all about. Always a problem which is existing, which is not being solved. People may say, oh...
So innovation is an important part.
It's innovation. Creativity is the most important part of this. I said human being has enormous creativity, but they don't use it. And I was just mentioning, each human being has the capacity, each one of them, you, me, everybody here, has the capacity to change the world. The question is, am I going to use it? If I don't use it, it will never be done. It will remain with me. But if I want to use it, I'll get activated. I'll see how do I do it, in which sector, which particular point I'll change the world. I'll find my call and change the world. Because I created something, everybody needed it, and everybody benefited. So everybody has that creativity. But we are not asked to use it because we are so busy making money, because that's the only option. You go to a good school, get a good degree, get a good job. And that's the end of the world.